Thanks, friends, for the 3,000 likes in the previous video. I also hope that this video will also reach 3,000 likes, and thanks to everyone who supported the channel financially. In fact, Ryu had a vision. He foresaw a day when he would stand as the representative of players, and he knew that securing the support of the general public was crucial for this endeavor. And if Congressman Lee Seong-hyun came to his aid, Ryu believed that ordinary citizens would readily rally behind Black Scythe. Consequently, he bided his time, refraining from taking action until the kidnapping unfolded. So Ryu's decision to use the invisibility skill and tail the chairman stemmed from this understanding. At that time, the president met with the criminals, and one of them asked, "Hey there, boss. Are you seriously tripling our payment once the job's done?" He replied, "Indeed." Suspicion crept in, and one of the criminals asked cautiously, "You're not planning to scam us at the last minute, are you?" He reassured them, "If you can't do it, just say so now. I'll transfer the 25 million won to someone else." One said, "You're quite impatient. I was just asking a question. When have we ever said we wouldn't do it? So don't worry. In today's world, taking a life is hardly a big deal." Ryu couldn't help but sigh at the realization. Whether they were players or regular folks, there always seemed to be trash lurking around. With such thoughts in mind, Ryu patiently awaited the opportune moment. Then suddenly, a soft chime signaled that the time had come. It was a call for the president. Yes, Yamti-nim," Song Jae-gyum responded. "I understand. I'll take him now." Upon ending the call, the president directed his bodyguards, "Gather everyone here and follow me." The bodyguards acknowledged the order, but before they could react further, they faltered and collapsed, much to their shock. One of them managed to groan before losing consciousness. What's happening? Ryu had swiftly dealt with them, leaving the president and the criminals dumbfounded. Song Jae-gyum, who recognized Ryu Min's face, was especially taken aback. "Lost yak?" With a grin, Ryu quipped, "Well, now it's your turn to faint, Chairman." And in an instant, the president joined the ranks of the unconscious, and Ryu turned his attention to the bewildered criminals and inquired, "Now, what should we do with you lot?" One of them managed to say, realizing that Ryu was no ordinary human. Hey, a player! You can never hope to win against one of them." Realizing that he couldn't simply let those who conspired to commit murder walk away, Ryu unsheathed his scythe. In an instant, the 6 criminals were reduced to a gruesome scene of crimson splatter. Then Ryu, who quickly cleaned up the scene to eliminate all traces, drove off with the unconscious chairman. Carefully placing the body as if it were a discarded object, he had a plan in mind, and he said, "Even if the chairman wakes up later, it won't matter. By then, the situation will be firmly under control." After that, Ryu steered the car towards their designated rendezvous point, an old cabin. Upon entering, he was greeted by 3 junior officers who recognized him. They respectfully nodded, saying, "Hello, senior," Ryu inquired. "Hey there. Has Yamti-nim arrived yet?" They replied, "Yes, she's expected to arrive with the congressman shortly." Ryu added, "All right then, I'll maintain my watch outside as planned." While Ryu was outside, he noticed Yamti's arrival with the congressman, and he said to himself, "Finally, they're here." From this point on, the plan was clear-cut. Get inside, rescue the congressman, and eliminate all officers except Yamti. Why spare Yamti's life? The reason was simple. If Ryu can enslave Yamti, Player Haven will naturally fall under his control. Though the chairman was the nominal leader of Player Haven, Yamti wielded the real power behind the scenes. And Ryu believed that if he could control Yamti, he could effectively steer the organization. But there was more at stake. Ryu coveted the enticing rune of enchantment. This rune held immense power, perhaps even surpassing that of a territory representative's authority. And Ryu said to himself, "It's superior. It knows no boundaries, dominating players and regular individuals alike." However, Ryu had struggled to approach Yamti until now. How could he compete with someone who could captivate people effortlessly? Then he said, "Of course, ending her wouldn't be difficult. I could sneak up invisibly and finish the job swiftly." But from the start, Ryu had never intended to kill Yamti. It was more practical to utilize her. And he said, "That's why I needed the 7th round submission rune." Thanks to the rune of mental barrier, Ryu Min could finally confront Yamti. The rune of enchantment might be powerful, but it can't pierce through the rune of mental barrier. However, to avoid any misunderstandings in front of the congressman, Ryu decided to lure Yamti outside, and he said to himself, "I'll make him think I spared her out of mercy." Seeing Yamti's scornful expression, Ryu was sure of one thing. Mere threats couldn't control people. And he said, in that case, there's only one way, and he decided to use the one-time use reality's dominion on Yamti, and said to himself, I'm not sorry to see it go. Dominating Yamti will grant me another authority anyway, if not a better one without the restrictions. And when Ryu ordered, Yamti, become my slave, a message appeared. All uses of real-world's dominion have been exhausted. Temporary skill, dominion. Remaining uses, 8. Targets, Black Scythe, Yamti. Unused authority can be employed in the other world. Temporary skill. Dominion is hidden from the skill window. With this, Ryu not only gained access to the potent rune of enchantment, but also control over Player Haven. Yamti said, bowing slightly, It's an honor to meet you, Master. Please give me an order, Master. I will do whatever you tell me, Ryu instructed. Never call me Master. Don't bow to me in front of anyone else either. Just act naturally, because if you get too carried away with your words, someone might find it strange, she said. All right. Although Yamti didn't add another word, Ryu could read her inner thoughts, and he said to himself, she genuinely sees me as his master. She's completely under my control. Then Ryu ordered, Run down this path as fast as you can. The police will arrive soon. Tell the chairman that Lost Yak betrayed him. She said, All right. Master, I mean, Black Scythe? Ryu said coldly, Don't even mention Black Scythe. I will kill you, she said. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, I apologize. But what should I call you from now on? At that moment, Ryu revealed his true face and smiled, saying, Just use my name, Ryu Min. He was sure that his identity would not be revealed, as Yamti had become his slave. On the other hand, Lee Seong-hyun said to himself, I can't believe I was kidnapped. Recalling his memories before passing out, the conversation with the woman who brought him here, and being bound to the chair, all signs pointed to a kidnapping. And he said, That woman, she's the one who kidnapped me. She was undoubtedly a player. Probably retaliating for the law I proposed. Then he added, Wasn't that why I hired bodyguards to begin with? But those bodyguards are utterly useless, worthless. Then he remembered the person who saved him and inquired. He introduced himself earlier as someone coming to rescue me, but what's his connection to that woman? The atmosphere didn't suggest they were on the same side. After all, she was begging for her life. However, that alone couldn't confirm him as an ally. So Lee Seong-hyun kept a watchful eye, and he said to himself, he's probably not an ordinary person but a player. But suddenly Ryu approached Lee Seong-hyun and tear the rope, and said, Sorry for the delay in untying you, Congressman Lee Seong-hyun. I had to tie up some loose ends outside. He inquired, Loose ends? You mean that woman? Ryu replied, Yes, as you've shared, she is indeed the one responsible for your kidnapping. I've taken care of her, so you need not worry. Lee Seong-hyun scrutinized him with a probing gaze. Seeing that, Ryu said, You must be curious about the situation. I'll explain everything. First, let's get rid of the body. And with the use of erase traces, the bodies vanished. Lee Seong-hyun was initially surprised by this ability, but he quickly regained his composure, and he said, You, a player, Ryu said. Yes, I know you might not hold players in high regard, but you seem a bit disappointed by your savior. He inquired, So you're the one who saved my life? Ryu nodded and proceeded to explain the situation in detail, saying, As you may have guessed, there are many players who hold grievances against you, Congressman. The group here is one of them. Ryu artfully wove a narrative, skillfully blending elements of truth and deception. He chose not to overtly involve Player Haven in the scheme, and he added, I received an offer from a player I typically associate with. Consequently, I came to know their plan, and with intricate detail, he explained the plan, right down to the schedule and route they had followed. Lee Seong-hyun's eyes widened as he listened. The level of detail in your story makes it appear genuine. Then Ryu said, I harbored no ill feelings toward you, Congressman. I didn't harbor any negative opinions about the law you proposed. In fact, I regarded it as a necessary legislation for our current era. Lee Seong-hyun felt an unusual sense of unease. Before him was a player who supported the law, in stark contrast to his own disdain for players. Ryu added, So I betrayed them because I didn't want someone like you to perish in vain. Lee Seong-hyun inquired, The bodies I saw earlier? Ryu replied, Yes, they were players who had conspired in the crime. I eliminated them all. If you wish to know their identities, I can provide hide that information? And Ryu continued saying, to you, I must seem like a murderer. Well, I am a murderer, but I have no intention of surrendering. He said, why not? If you've committed a crime, you should turn yourself in. Ryu inquired, I can't imagine that you'd want the man who saved you to spend the rest of my life behind bars, right? Yes. Turning him to the police was something even Lee Seong-hyun couldn't force himself to do. Despite this young man being a player he held in hatred, he was still the person who saved his life. Then he asked, what do you desire from me? If you expect me to revoke the law as compensation for saving me, that's utterly... Ryu said, please proceed with the law. Maintain your current perspective. That's all I request. Frankly, Lee Song-hyun was taken aback. It was the opposite of what he had anticipated. And he said, if that's all, is there anything else? Ryu said, I desire nothing more. I acted according to my convictions, and like I said before, I don't oppose your law. For some reason, Lee Seong-hyun felt a sense of embarrassment, and he said, in any case, thank you. You saved me, and I will find a way to return. At that moment, the sound of approaching footsteps reached their ears, and Ryu said, it appears the police have tracked us down. I must depart. He inquired, just like that? Ryu turned to leave, disregarding Lee Song-hyun's bewildered expression, and said, it was a pleasure talking to you. Everything you have witnessed and heard you may share with the police. But Lee Song-hyun said, wait. In response to Lee Song-hyun's call, Ryu turned his head. Then Lee Song-hyun gazed at Ryu, as if wanting to at least know the name of the person who had rescued him, and asked, what is your name? With a faint smile, Ryu replied, I am known as Black Scythe.